Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. So today we're tackling something that, let's be honest, holds literally every single one of us back at some point in our lives. We're talking about fear. We're going to be setting off on this really energetic, deeply focused exploration into an incredibly profound ancient philosophy on how to completely conquer your anxiety. Get ready because we're about to seriously shift your perspective. Okay, let's just dive right in. What does it actually mean to be fearless? I mean, we all deal with modern anxieties, right? We're constantly stressing about our money, our family's well-being, or maybe our professional reputation. But today, relying strictly on our source text, we are going to completely redefine what true bravery looks like in our everyday, real life.
Section 1. Abhay, the foundation of virtues.
So we're kicking things off with this concept of Abhay, which basically translates to fearlessness. And what is absolutely fascinating here is the text's observation regarding the Bhagavad Gita. Over in the 16th chapter, which is the one that details all these divine qualities, Abhay is actually listed as the very first quality. Out of all the virtues you could possibly possess, this one takes the absolute top spot. And you know, this placement isn't just a coincidence. The source text argues that without fearlessness, without Abhay, no other virtue is even possible to attain. Just think about it for a second. Without being fearless, how can you truly seek the truth? Without it, how can you genuinely practice nonviolence? Fearlessness isn't just, a nice-to-have trait. It is the absolute prerequisite for the whole shebang. You literally must be fearless before you can be truly good.
Section 2. The myth of the sword.
Right, so we need to bust a major, deeply ingrained societal myth about what courage actually looks like in practice. Because we usually picture bravery as, someone armed to the teeth, ready for battle. But the source text argues that holding a sword, it isn't a symbol of bravery at all. Actually, it's a sign of fear. You only carry a weapon because you're afraid of being hurt. True courage, on the other hand, is simply the freedom from external anxieties. It's this incredibly peaceful state of mind, not a state of being heavily armed.
Section 3. The genealogy of fear.
Now, if true courage is the absence of external anxieties, let's take a look at how those anxieties actually multiply in our everyday lives. This source describes what it calls a genealogy of fear. It acts almost like a family tree of anxieties that just cascade over us. And it's this sweeping list that traps all different types of people. I mean, you have the ultimate fear of death, obviously, but also the fear of losing your wealth, fear for your family's safety, fear of weapons, fear of losing your reputation, and even the fear of public criticism or offending someone. From the miser hoarding his wealth, all the way to the socialite terrified of a bad reputation, we're all caught somewhere on this cascading list. Now you might be sitting there thinking, well, hey, if I just get over my fear of dying, I'll be truly fearless. But the text explicitly states that conquering the fear of death just isn't enough. It's fascinating, really, because you can find people who have entirely overcome the fear of dying, yet they still run away from grief, or they fiercely clutch onto their savings, or they hesitate to do the right things simply because of what others might think. So physical bravery, it just isn't the whole picture.
To truly, absolutely conquer fear, a seeker of truth has to be willing to let go of everything. The text points to the ancient archetype of King Harishchandra, who literally lost everything for the sake of truth. And whether you view his tale as, literal history or just a metaphorical story, the source tells us its value is infinite. Why? Because it perfectly reflects the ultimate truth-seeking experience of all self-realized souls. You basically must be ready to face total worldly ruin without even flinching.
Section 4. Internal enemies and the illusion of fear.
Okay, so to actually achieve this state of bravery, we have to pivot. We must shift our focus away from the external world of reputations and bank accounts and look directly into the deepest parts of our own psychology. And here is a totally pivotal realization from the text. True fear doesn't come from the outside. Nope, it comes from internal enemies, specifically things like lust and anger. The source actually assures us that if we can just manage to conquer these internal enemies, all those external fears we just listed in that genealogy, they will naturally disappear on their own. The outside world really isn't the threat. It's our internal reaction to it.
And you see, that internal reaction is rooted in a concept called mamatva. Mamatva is defined as this sense of mindness, or our intense possessive attachment. It's this wild illusion of ownership over our bodies, our families, and our wealth. The text argues that our physical fears are really just creations of our own imagination, and they're entirely rooted in this dangerous illusion that these things are ours to hold on to.
Section 5. Renouncing mindness.
Which brings us to a really profound spiritual climax in our explainer, something that completely changes how we view our place in the physical world. Consider this piece of Upanishadic wisdom. Tena tyaktena bunjita. That translates to enjoy by giving up. Now the text clarifies this doesn't mean you have to physically abandon your life or run away to live in a cave somewhere. Your family, your wealth, your body, they're gonna remain exactly as they are. But your internal perspective on them, that must fundamentally, radically change.
You have to truly embrace the realization that they are not mine. They belong to the divine, to God. Actually, even you yourself belong to the divine. By realizing that you actually own absolutely nothing in this world and that everything belongs to a higher power, the very root cause of your fear is completely eliminated. I mean, think about it. You literally cannot fear losing what was never yours to begin with.
Section 6. Protector, not owner.
So, the million-dollar question, how do we actually apply this zero-ego philosophy to our chaotic, anxiety-filled daily lives without just withdrawing from society? Well, it builds logically in 3 clear steps. First, we have to consciously remove that sense of mindness from our thoughts. Second, we transition our mindset. We have to stop acting like anxious, possessive owners and instead become trustees or peaceful protectors of the people and resources around us. And third, by making this massive mental shift, we achieve true peace and clear the path to realize the truth.
This is the whole concept of becoming the ultimate servant. It's called adopting a shunyavrat, basically living in a zero-ego state. The text promises that if we embrace becoming a servant and rid ourselves of the heavy ego of ownership, the divine steps right in. We'll be provided with all the necessary strength and resources we need to perfectly protect whatever we are tasked to watch over. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, really provocative thought to chew on today. If you truly own nothing, what is there left to fear losing? When you finally let go of the illusion of ownership, you don't lose your life. You finally gain true, unshakable peace. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I challenge you to try being a protector rather than an owner as you go about your day.